Hello class, this is Demetrius Wilson and this is Management 2. We are now on Chapter 11, Leadership and Influence Processes. Learning outcomes for this chapter are describe the nature of leadership and relate leadership to management, discuss and evaluate the two generic approaches to leadership, identify and describe the major situational approaches to leadership, identify and describe three related approaches to leadership, describe three emerging approaches to leadership, and discuss political behavior in organizations and how it can be managed. Be sure to read the story at the very beginning of the chapter. As always, they are very interesting and very applicable to what we do in today's corporate and general business environment. So let's talk about the nature of leadership, what leadership is. I've got a good video on leadership in your module for chapter 11, so be sure to view that and with the open mind. Leadership, as is stated in the definition-wise, as a process, the use of non-coercive influence to shape a group or organization's goals, motivate behavior toward the achievement of these goals, and to help define the group or organizational culture. Right? So when they talk about non-coercive, there are different types of leadership. So if you're a charismatic leader, people are following you because they want to follow you because of your charisma draws them in and attracts them to you and what you're doing. Doesn't have to be that you're their manager or their boss and you're telling them what to do. So a leader is an individual or people who can influence behaviors of others without having to rely on force, right? Well, that's me using my power, putting the hammer down. Those accepted by others as leaders. And so when I talk about power, and we'll talk about the definition of power, then we'll talk about a bunch of different types of power. It's the ability to affect the behavior of others. So I can affect your behavior by telling you what to do because you report to me, but I can also respect I can change your behavior by showing you that I'm knowledgeable of what we do as far as technical skills are on the floor, and then you say, hey, I respect the fact that he knows what's going on the floor. He's willing to chip in with the team. I'll follow that power. Legitimate power, which is the most common, that's because I am the manager. Power granted through the organizational hierarchy, the power defined by the organization to be according to the people occupying a particular position. I occupy that position. I'm a manager, so I do have legitimate power where I can tell people what to do. Distinctions between management and leadership, I want you to read that on your own. As I say, keep an open mind. And remember that leadership and management are two different things. Not saying that a great leader doesn't have some management in it, and that even managers that aren't great leaders don't have some leadership capabilities. So I want you to, take, with an open mind, read through this and look at the distinctions between management and leadership. They're great tools for you to learn and understand which side of the coin you believe that you're on, and then kind of fix the other side of the coin to make sure that you have great leadership and management capabilities. A reward power is a power to give or withhold rewards such as salary increases, bonuses, promotions, praise, recognition, and interesting job assignments. At one company I was at, no joke, I woke up every single day that I went to work and I thought about the bonus, because the bonus, it was a huge bonus. So I said, I'm going to go full tilt, 100% to the wall every day, all day, every day, because they had the reward power over me, and it did resonate with me to motivate me to say, I need to get these things done. I need to wow them, blow their socks off, so I get that entire bonus. Coercive power. This is the power to force compliance by means of psychological, emotional, or physical threat, right? So I'm going to coerce you because I can threaten you in a certain manner. But as we go through these, some of them are, you can look at them in kind of in a negative manner and say, oh, people shouldn't be influencing or holding that type of power over individuals. Referent power. This is a personal power that accrues to someone based on identification, imitation, loyalty, or charisma. When we talked about, it'll lead into a charismatic power. You have certain people that, you're bound to, you're loyal to them, you feel their brand of charisma, and you stick with them. Expert power is a personal power that accrues to someone based on the information or expertise that they possess. So you've been there 30 years, you know all the nooks and crannies of everything that goes on within the company. So, you have a certain expert power because although I'm the manager, I'm going to be coming to you for advice in terms of particular technical skills because you've been there 30 years and you know all the ins and outs of the computer system. So go through, make sure you read about leadership traits, leadership behaviors. Not saying everybody who's a leader or manager should behave the same, but I am saying that they do have some commonality in terms of the things that they do. So be sure to go over, anything that's, definitions here that are bolded. I'm going to skip over those, but initiating structure behavior and consideration behavior. Be sure to go over both of those as well. Concern for production. So let's stop for a second and discuss that. This is a part of the managerial grid that deals with the job and task aspects of leader behavior. All right. So, production is a part of management. Production is a part of being an individual that works for a company. I was speaking with a colleague or, coworker the other day. We were talking about the fact that, goals and metrics are always going to be there. And I said that, I don't think in my professional career I've ever worked at any job that didn't have some type of goal, metric, or quota. And I thought about it, I was like, yeah, those are kind of maybe the high pressure positions, but it's also, more lucrative when you do have to make those tougher decisions. Concern for people. As managers and leaders, you should always have concern for people, and you can't just fake that part. It comes off of you. They can smell it if you're faking it. And they can know and understand if you're telling the truth or if you're being truthful in terms of, why you're doing certain things towards those individuals. So concern for people, this is a part of the managerial grid that deals with the human aspects of leader behavior. So they talk about, leadership behavior and caring for people. And, sometimes when people know how much you care, then they put forth a little bit more effort than the norm. If it's someone who, they say, hey, Demetrius doesn't really care. He's just here. It's just a paycheck. He doesn't care about us. They're going to perform differently than if they say, oh, Demetrius, he does care about our well-being. I'm willing to go, get in the trenches with him, and just as he's willing to get in the trenches with us. So you have to have that, that type of concern if you want to be a leader. People are only going to understand how much you care about them. And if you don't, then they're going to know and understand the fact that they feel neglected, and perception is reality. So you basically are neglecting them. Be sure to go over the diagrams of the managerial grid. It's really good. This one right here. Just want you to review that. But the managerial grid is a method of evaluating leadership styles. The overall objective of an organization using the grid is to train its managers using organizational development techniques so that they are simultaneously more concerned for both people and production, right? So I'm concerned with the people, I'm concerned with the production. We're all on the same page and we're moving towards our goal day by day, step by step, week by week, month by month, year by year. Tough times, tough choices. So great, great information here. I want you to read about that. There are going to be tough conversations. There are going to be tough decisions that are made. I was just talking to somebody about that today, and I was saying, hey, there was a conversation that we had, and I needed to go have what was going to be a rocky conversation with one person, and I say, but the thing about it that's funny is that it's not the only tough or rough conversation that I'm going to have today, which is okay. Sometimes you know what you're getting into in terms of whatever position, and you embrace it. Like I say, embrace the grind and move forward. So on your own, look at the LPC theory and the LPC measures. Those are there as well. Probably not as popular as others, but be sure to review those as well. Favorableness of the situation. Like we talk about interviewing and selecting and recruiting people and everything like that. You have to think to yourself and know before you get into this, is my brain one that's wired to say the last person that comes in who wows me, I'm going to select them, but I really had somebody at an interview 2 months ago that's better for the job. All right. So, you have to kind of learn, do you have these different types of biases and do they remain in your mind? Least preferred coworker theory of leadership, right? So be sure to go over this diagram. You'll see some very interesting things. So Fielder's LPC theory of leadership suggests that the appropriate leader behavior varies as a function of the favorableness of the situation. Favorableness in turn is defined by task structure, leader-member relations, and the leader's position power. According to the LPC theory, the most and least favorable situations call for task-oriented leadership, whereas moderately favorable situations suggest the need for relationship-oriented leadership, right? They want that people connection. They don't want that, hey, we need to hit this goal by 2 o'clock. Let's get on it. Let's get busy. Flexibility of a leadership style, like I said, you need to, not need to, I can't say you need to, but I would, tell everybody to look at these different leadership styles and then go with whatever's best for you. Because, like I said, we're not all the same. We're not all twins. So you have to look, some of these things, they're not just cut and dry. They're not just black and white. You have to look at them and say, is there a way for me to do ABC? Path goal theory, there's actually a video of that in the module for this week. So be sure to check that one out. I think that's pretty good. I'm sure probably about 33% of you guys will use that for your supplemental video assessment. And this is the path goal framework. Path goal theory of leadership suggests that managers can use 4 types of leader behavior to clarify subordinates' paths to goal attainment. Both personal characteristics of the subordinates and the environmental characteristics within an organization must be taken into account when determining which style of leadership will work best for a particular situation, right? So I think I also put a video in there about situational leadership. You say that I believe that this is going to happen in this time frame. It doesn't happen, then maybe we can move things a little quicker, a little easier. And this is just the decision tree. If you do a decision tree, just like any other tree, has a lot of branches. You think through and walk through all the possibilities, and you come up with what's your best scenario. There are additional diagrams that I would like for you to see. So you see the problem statement is over there, and this is actually time driven. If you look at that. So the matrix is recommended for situations where time is of the highest importance in making the decision. So if time is of the essence, you got to make a quick decision, then this Vroom's time-driven decision tree is something that you can use. And I know people, they use this on, great big decisions and even on small decisions as well. But everybody doesn't, necessarily utilize those type of tactics or these type of systems that we're seeing these on. And this is his development-driven decision tree. And like we talked about training development, everything needs to be training and development oriented and fall in line with what the company has set forth in terms of their direction. So in the LMX model, it's interesting. It said it stresses that leaders have different kinds of relationship with different subordinates, and I agree with that. You can't have the same relationship with everybody who works for you. Find something in common, find some common ground, talk about it. Move forward that direction. I've never had anybody who's worked for me that I could not find something interesting that we did have in common. You have to be able to think as a human, right? And kind of have those conversations, even though you feel like you need to be back at your desk, crunching some numbers or doing whatever you do. So here is a diagram, as always, and they do such a good job of that in the book. You have your leader, your subordinates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have your out group and your in group. It suggests that leaders from unique independent relationships, or they form unique independent relationships with each of their subordinates, which is definitely what you should do. You should, talk to them. Just have a conversation. As illustrated here, a key factor in the nature of this relationship is whether the individual subordinate is in the leader's out group or in group, right? So are you in the in crowd, or you're in the circle of trust, right? Or you're on the outside. I don't necessarily need to, look at my landscape and see if I need to jump in a certain place because, it's something that's not necessarily a focus as of right now. So be sure to check out that diagram and we'll move forward from there. So related approaches to leadership. So substitute for leadership, and also the situational leadership. Ken Blanchard, who's like the king or guru of that, I believe also have a video of that in the module. Substitutes for leadership, a concept that identifies situations in which leader behaviors are neutralized by or replaced by characteristics of a subordinate, the task, and the organization. So, like they say, is there a substitute for leadership? No, not really, but is there a way to amass the knowledge that you need? Yes, there definitely is, without going the traditional route. Now, let's get into those leadership styles that I was talking about. A charismatic leader assumes that charisma is an individual characteristic of the leader, right? So if they're charismatic, jumping around, everybody knows them, shaking hands, giving everybody high fives and things of that nature, right? They're going to have that type of leadership style. And charisma is a form of interpersonal attraction that inspires support and acceptance, right? So if you have that charisma about you, you'd be amazed at the things that you get and the things that people offer. Transformational leadership, leadership that goes beyond ordinary expectations by transmitting a sense of mission, stimulating learning experiences, and inspiring new ways of thinking. So now I'm an innovative culture. I need to come up with something big and huge to combat my competitors because they're moving in and they're taking a piece of the pie or a piece of the market share. And which is something that I don't like. So I want to see if there's something I can do about that to increase my company's market share and have them either stay the same or reduce theirs. So another new perspective on leadership that has been called a number of labels: charismatic leadership, inspirational leadership, symbolic leadership, and transformational leadership. We use the term transformational leadership and define it as leadership that goes beyond the ordinary, right? So you do want to go beyond the ordinary. Can't be ordinary, but some, there are instances in which people are ordinary and then they end up winning, like with, you talk about like a last minute, win or a stretch goal or something like that. Those are some of the things that come to mind. Strategic leadership, so the capability to understand the complexities of both the organization and its environment, and to lead change in the organization to achieve and maintain a superior alignment between the organization and its environment. So remember, when we talked about it went strategic goals and movements, then it went to tactical, and then it went to operational. Those that make the strategic ones are at the very top. They're the CEOs, the COOs, those big wigs that are at the top are the ones that are implementing the strategic leadership. As we move, so diversity is still lagging in the boardroom, so I want you guys to read that, especially if you're someone who's not in the majority column, and that's probably the majority of our class, but the majority column will be Caucasian males, but you want to check out the article and see what they say about diversity and see how it's still lagging in the boardroom, and maybe one day that's something that you can choose. So also leading the way, you want to continue there. It's not too long. It's an easy read. Ethical leadership, we talked about ethics in different chapters, but if you want to follow somebody, you want to follow somebody who's ethical. If they're not ethical, then you're probably not going to deal with them or follow them in that direction. Political behavior, be sure to review that. That's something that you can't really avoid in certain industries. Even at a company I used to work for, they would kind of, but they would tell you or kind of push you along and say, hey, it's time to vote today, and these are the things and the people who you need to vote for. So that was an interesting experience. Impression, I was thinking about passing by, but let's go over impression management. So direct and intentional effort by someone to enhance his or her image in the eyes of others, right? So you're managing your impression, you're managing your brand, you're going to, who you report to and saying, hey, I did this, without bragging, but, just explaining and letting them know that you want to make that good impression. And we all want to make good impressions, right? But does it always work out that way? Absolutely not. But we should continue to strive to have, make good first impressions most specifically, and great, relationships and expressions all the way throughout that relationship. So be sure to read that. Doesn't look like they're having fun arguing. So that's it for chapter 11, down to the summary of learning outcomes and key points. I will say that in this book, in this text, I do like the summary of learning outcomes and key points a little bit better than some of the other texts. I think it's very clear, very smooth. They work certain concepts into every single fold of the summary. So I definitely said don't pass up the summary before you take the quiz or in the next few weeks take your test. Be sure to review it, read it in its totality, and then get something from it that you can apply in your everyday life, or maybe you can apply it further down the road. So that's it. As always, if you have any questions, be sure to email me. But want all you guys to have a good day and a great week.